Hello, everybody. How are ya? This is Tammy Kiekefer, and I'm your host here at Women's Empowerment Toolkit. Today, we are going to be talking about anxiety on your Tuesday Tips from Tam. Anxiety. Anxiety. Sometimes you just need to exhale. You know, and a lot of times people say, "Oh, I can't get an in breath. I can't get a good breath in. I can't get the full diaphragm inhale." What I say is try to focus on the exhale instead. If you just blow all that air out involuntarily, you're going to be able to take an inhale. And a lot of times people find it easier to breathe when they can exhale, and then naturally it just comes in. So anyways, that's what I just did. All right, so what I wanted to talk about today is anxiety. So anxiety it can catch you off guard. Sometimes it's one of those 2 a.m. things, and you sit up and you're just like, oh my God, something's going on, but I don't even know what it is. Sometimes there's anticipatory anxiety, which means that you know that there's a lot going on and something is around the corner. And it's like you're anticipating, and sometimes in your mind you can work it up to be even larger than it really is. So there's lots of different kinds of anxiety. Sometimes it's trauma-based, sometimes it's just because it's lack of healthy coping mechanisms and things just start piling up. But anxiety is anxiety, and it feels, typically you feel it in your body. If you're on here, if you're watching this later, ask yourself, where do you feel your anxiety? When you start to feel that, is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest? Is it in your head? Do you start to just clench? Maybe you feel like your shoulders start rising up towards your ears, and it's just about relaxing your shoulders, making your shoulders go back, creating a lot of length between your shoulders and your ears is how I think about it. Where do you feel it in your body? So let's talk about that one first, because your body is always trying to communicate with you. So if you think about it, when it's cold outside, what happens to your body? Your body shivers, sometimes you get goosebumps. When you're hungry, what does your body do? Right, your stomach growls. When you're tired, what do? You yawn, your eyes water. So if you think about it, your body is always trying to communicate with you about where it is, what it needs. It's almost like, pay attention. If you miss those body warning signs, then you have another opportunity. Your body's always giving you opportunities to pay attention. If you miss this one, guess what? There's another one coming around the corner. So a body reaction is your first opportunity to go, okay, I need to pay attention to this. Something's happening, and I need to work towards calming myself down. If you miss that one, the next one is that you have a thought, and your thought is going to an escalating one or a problem-solving one. So a problem-solving one is like, all right, something's going on. What do I need to do to take care of this? Or an escalating one is where the what-ifs start coming into play, and you start creating these stories around what's happening in your life that's going to make that anxiety or that situation feel worse. So body reaction first, and then you're going to have a thought. If you miss the thought, the next opportunity is going to be your voice. And you're going to start saying things, maybe, those times when you just get real short and snappy and you don't have a lot of patience with people around you, and maybe you're, or you, I don't know, you drop something and you just lose your mind, you start screaming and dropping F-bombs and things like that. That's because you missed the body reaction, and then you miss the thought reaction, and now the verbal part starts coming out because it's got to go somewhere is kind of how I look at it. So then you've got the verbal. If you miss that one, then the physical part starts happening, like maybe you pound your fist, or you throw something, or I don't know, you slam a door or whatever. So if you think of this progression, physical, body first, and then it's going to be a thought, and then it's going to be the verbal. So where is it, if you think back to a situation where you kind of lost control, think back to what happened. Where did you miss it? If you look back and think, okay, I probably could have caught it at this point. Where would that point have been? So you could even do some journal entry around that. because the more aware you can be about your situation and what you're up against, the better you're going to be able to control it. If you're not aware of something, then you can't fix it. That's how I always look at it. If you're not aware of something, you can't change it, you can't fix it. So the first step in creating more of a sense of control for yourself is to find awareness of what you're doing, your own specific situation. Okay, so that's one aspect that I wanted to talk about anxiety, is how to acknowledge it, how to be aware of it. The sooner you can be aware of your anxiety, the earliest, the easier it's going to be to manage it. Because if you think about it, if it builds and builds and builds and builds, then you can still manage it. It's just that it's going to take you a lot longer to decompress internally. If you can catch it sooner, then it's not going to take you as long to decompress. So the sooner you can find it, the better it is, the better your chances of getting it before it escalates to a very, very uncomfortable situation. If it happens where there is, it continues to escalate, or it's one of those kinds of anxieties that come out in the middle of nowhere and totally catches you off guard, or a 2 a.m. one, I mean, I don't know, sometimes I think of it like I just have to put my seatbelt on and go for the ride, because if you miss it, no one has ever died of a panic attack, although it does feel like you are going to die. They're very scary. They're very, very uncomfortable. But eventually your body kicks in and coping mechanisms physically just naturally happen, and you end up coming down from it. But do you want to go there? No, I don't want to go there. It's terrible. So I want to help you try to head it off when you still have that sense of control. Hopefully all this is making sense. If you've got some ideas on this, if you have some questions on this, please type them in the comments. I'll be checking back through here after this is finished. Then I'll look back and make sure that I'm answering questions if you have anything. Also, if you've got experiences with some of this and you want to share some of your experiences, go for it. So the next thing about anxiety that I wanted to talk about is really what it's made up of. Why does it happen? Why do we experience the things that we feel? Why do you have to go through the whole anxiety thing, the panic, the feeling out of control, the body reactions? Where does it all come from? I try to simplify what anxiety is about by looking at, it's really made up of two things. The first thing that it's made up of is not having a sense of control around your environment, not being in control. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a super controlling person. It just means that everybody needs a sense of control. Do you know what I mean? Think about like an infant. An infant needs a sense of control. What does an infant or a toddler do if they don't have control? They have a temper tantrum. I was thinking temper tantrum, like adults have temper tantrums too, but looking at it from early on, infancy, all the way up to someone who's, 110 years old, they still want a sense of control. They still want to be able to walk, to be able to take care of their activities of daily living on their own, shower and go to the bathroom. It's like everybody, no matter who you are or how old you are, you want a sense of control over your life. And when you don't have that sense of control, then the anxiety starts to kick in. So when you acknowledge that you're feeling anxiety, try to take a step back and recognize, where is it that I don't have control? Where is it in my life? Is it in my job? Is it in my house? Is it my laundry's piling up? Is it these millions of emails that I need to return? Is it family obligations? Is it, your to-dos, whatever takes up your to-dos. And where is it that you can gain a sense of control? You've got those things that no matter what, you cannot change, you cannot control. But given that, what could you grab a little piece of control over? Maybe it's your reaction. What you're going to find on the side of not having any control is typically other people. You can't control other people. And as soon as you try, you're going to be quickly reminded that doesn't work. And it's going to make you feel even more out of control. But you do have control over your reaction to people. you have control over being able to set a clear, healthy boundary with people. What are your limits? Mental, physical, emotional, there's all those boundaries that we have and that we have control over to change. So when it comes back to what makes up anxiety, the first thing is not having a sense of control. The second part that makes up anxiety is your thought process, all of your cognitive abilities. So if you think about anxiety, it's all future based. It's all what ifs. It's all worst case scenario. That's the cognitive part. Hopefully all this is making sense. But the cognitive part is where you go in your mind, and as soon as you say, oh, what if this happens? What if, I don't know, let me pick something like, what if a tornado comes through and wrecks my home? If I were to ask you, okay, what if you switched that around and you said, what if a tornado came through and wrecked my home yesterday? You might go, what if a tornado came through, yesterday? Yesterday already happened, and yesterday there wasn't a tornado, so that's kind of weird. And then it's just dead in the water. You don't even follow that way of thinking. You don't go down that rabbit hole because it's fact-based. You know that yesterday a tornado did not come in and wreck your home, and so it's fact-based. It's set. It's there. But if you were to think about what if a tornado came through tomorrow, now all of a sudden it would be like, oh my God, well, what would I grab, and how much time would I have, and do I have gas in the car, and where would I go, and there's no way I could possibly pack everything, so what if I forgot something, and what if this got damaged, and what if we got hurt, and what if we couldn't get out? I mean, you can just see the rabbit hole that you start to create in your mind. And your mind entertains every single one of those ideas. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Let me come up with another one. So the cognitive part of anxiety is the what ifs and the worst case scenario. And you know what? I don't know what it is, but it sucks us in so quickly. I talk about this stuff every day with people, with my clients, but there's definitely times that I find myself going down that rabbit hole, and then I go, Tammy, what are you doing? You know this stuff, but it doesn't even matter because your emotional state is very opposite from the fact base of what you know to be true. So think about two sides of your brain. You've got your left brain and you've got your right brain, the two hemispheres. The left brain is all your fact-based, your strategy, your analytical thinking. Your right side is all of your creative, all of your emotion. Two totally different sides. It's like one speaking one language and one speaking the other language, and they don't mix. You can't have a dialogue with the two. So like I said, I talk about this stuff all the time, but when it pops up in my life, it's very much of a discipline that has to happen internally to not go down that rabbit hole. So now think about times that you have anxiety, or maybe even you're experiencing it now, and think about, all right, what are my worst case scenarios? Be aware of those worst case scenarios and recognize I'm creating this stuff. Sometimes when I think about anxiety, I think about that it comes from my own mind. It comes from my own thoughts. It's inside my head. Guess what? I have control over that. It's my head. These are my thoughts. So I actually have control. You have way more control over anxiety than you think you do. It's just a matter of pulling it back and recognizing what's fact-based and what are my worst case scenarios, what are my what ifs. I think that anxiety, I was going to say it's my definitely an expertise, but I was also kind of thinking out loud that it feeds into confidence, it feeds into relationships, it feeds into finding balance in your life, I mean, anxiety has such a root in all of those areas that you know, a lot of times tackling that initial anxiety factor is the most important thing, because it drives all of these other areas of our lives. It drives how we are at work. It's how we are with money. I mean, if you think about coping mechanisms for anxiety and stress, a lot of times there's retail therapy, going out and spending a bunch of money. It has to do with healthy eating, healthy habits. I mean, if you think about stress, food is a huge coping mechanism. It's the oral fixation. It's actually chewing something. It's swallowing something. It's feeling full inside. So if you manage your stress by spending money, by eating, by avoiding things, by I don't know, working too hard, anything could be a unhealthy coping mechanism if it's done too much. Exercise is good, but too much exercising can be damaging to your body. Chocolate's yummy, but too much chocolate isn't good for you. So I think that figuring out how to gain control over your life and how to gain control over your thoughts is so super important. It affects your confidence. Also, when your confidence is high, your anxiety is low. When your anxiety is high, your confidence is low. It's a teeter-totter, and there's a direct correlation between the two of those things. So if you're somebody who's working on confidence, check your anxiety. If you, as far as speaking of relationships, if you're not going into a relationship being confident and knowing what it is that you want, it's risky to set yourself up for situations where you're going to get taken advantage of, or when you're not going to be able to be assertive and speak up. So understanding anxiety and how it affects you is so important. And I think that given our culture that we are living in right now, given just the facts that are going on with finances, employment, COVID, I don't know, you name it, prices of everything, the economy, everything is super expensive. I don't know, I think that anxiety is, I don't really know anyone who's having anxiety, which kind of leads me to another point, that anxiety is good. I mean, I'm not ever a proponent of saying, oh, don't feel anxious ever. One, that I think that would be impossible. But two, there's a part of anxiety that's really, really, really important. It's really helpful. It's healthy. It's, think about what anxiety is telling you. Anxiety is telling you, be careful, something is happening. Something's not okay. Something is off balance. Why would you ever want to take that out or get rid of that ability to look around and look for risky or dangerous situations? I mean, you don't. That's a very, very helpful aspect of our human makeup, to give us warning signs for things. Again, a little anxiety is good. Too much anxiety is not good. So it's kind of recognizing where's the anxiety, where can it be helpful? Where is it giving me a red flag to say, ooh, maybe I need to pay attention to this area, or maybe this is an area that I need to fix or correct or strengthen or back off from or say no, or so a little bit of anxiety is good. Too much is not a good thing. If you do, drop me a line, let me know. I just wanted to recap what we've talked about so far. So understanding anxiety, understanding how it's manifested. First, it starts out with that body reaction, maybe the zinger in your stomach, the tightening of your chest, that feeling in your throat that's just like kind of grasping, just body tension. That's where it's first going to start out. Paying attention to that. And then comes the thought process, the cognitive part. This is your what ifs, this is your worst case scenario. This is where you tend to go down the rabbit hole if you don't put the discipline in to say, stop, take some deep breaths, calm yourself down. And then if you miss that, here come the words, and then there comes the door slamming. So that's sort of that progression of anxiety and how that goes. Then we talked about what anxiety is made up of. The one, not having a sense of control around your environment, and then the second one is the what if thinking, the worst case scenario, and then you can just tend to follow that, like I said. The anxiety is so super complex because there's so many facets to it, but at the same time, it's very simple. It's very simple. I try to have, with my clients that I work with, I try to not complicate it, because it is about having a sense of control over your environment, and it's about controlling your thinking. And these are your thoughts. You have control over your thinking. It can get away from you in a nanosecond, but you can also work towards bringing that back when you know how to do it. So I hope that this is really kind of the tip of the iceberg with some anxiety stuff. I wanted to get on here and address some of this, and maybe we start having like a 2-3 part series or something, if that would be helpful. Because I know anxiety is, it's its own pandemic. It's just tough. It can just take you down and make you feel like you're swirling and spinning, and it's a terrible feeling, but it doesn't have to be like that. So I hope that you can take some of these tips and see what you can apply to your life. I would love to hear what you're coming up with, what realizations you had. Share them. I think that we all struggle from anxiety and from one point to another. So try some of this stuff and drop some comments, and I would love to hear what your takeaways are. And also, if you've got more questions, and maybe next Tuesday we could even do a continuation if something like this is important. We could also talk about how anxiety gets into like the confidence aspect, or relationships, or friendships, not just romantic relationships, but sort of how that plays out. So anyways, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.